substantive, which is a direct clash on Andrew's point on how the government is passing a value judgment, which further entrenches the idea and the role of women in society. And my second substantive on how we say this is unjust for you to discriminate fathers just based on this sort of assumptions which we say is relative in the very first stage. But before I move on to my substantive, let me first get this debate clear. What the side opposition wants you to believe is that they want to find a good way for children to actually have the sort of parents that they're going to be belong to after a custody fight. However, what they have to do about what they have proposed to you is that we should actually take into societal perceptions, because society is the best showcase of what the real and ideal situation is. However, they have missed this point that different families have got different types of situations. Not all families is characterized by your generalization of what society ought to be. And this is how we're addressing the question. We are introducing our policy. We are going to take into more factors into consideration. We're going to see the type of families that children belongs to in the very first place, to see whether they have that sort of support structure which they ideally believe that everyone in society has in the very first place. Not everyone has that kind of grandfathers that you want, or that kind of support structure and siblings that you have in the very first place. And that's why we think that their policy falls flat in the very first place. Furthermore, she talked to you about how, the legal system should pander to societal perceptions. Whoa, this is totally untrue, right? Whoa, so if I think that polygamy is right, doesn't mean that everyone is going to go into like polygamy marriages or anything like that. We say that polygamy is wrong not because society perceives it is wrong. It is wrong because it is unjust. It doesn't give females the equal right to have the same spouse as they have as a husband. To actually have the equal right to have a faithful husband. And therefore we say that this is unjust, and if a law is just used to dictate societal perceptions, right? What is the use of the law in the very first place? The legal system is used to deal out justice and not to pander to what society thinks is right, to what society thinks is right or wrong. Furthermore, she talked to you about how the legal system is sophisticated and equal, and we say that in this part of in her substantive, Andrea totally missed the point. We have already established that when a situation calls that a father is directly much better than the mother in the very first place, right, you will give the custody to the father. But what we are talking about in this debate is when there are grey areas, like what she is talking about. What should we do, and should we naturally favor the mother in this sense? We do not think so, because we say that society perception of what Andrea have told you is generalized, and we do not think that if we could have an individual customized solution for a child, why do we want to take societal generalization in the very first place? Therefore, we believe that all families are different, and therefore each child deserves a customized solution. Furthermore, she talked to you about how the perception of females in society, like how it is a norm for society to think that parents are the one at home taking care of the child. Oh, dude, we are not saying in other countries that are so conservative and have that kind of societal entrenchment of parental roles in the very first place. What we are talking about is the United States, one of the most liberal society and open culture as to what the role of parents are. Furthermore, in the United States, we see that females are working in the economy itself. They are participating as much as males, and we see that is the place where female rights is actually advanced the most in the very first place. Therefore, we see women going out, and we see dads willingly taking up this whole idea of house dad in the very first place. They push their children, they push their toddlers around everywhere, and they're not ashamed about it. They want to spend time at home with their children, and this is their mindset, this is their culture, and therefore we do not exactly see how they are substantive on how societal norms perceived in society actually works in the very first place. Therefore, I believe that Andrea's whole speech totally missed the point. So now, any substantive? Any rebuttal? Go on.
We don't care.
So now I'll move on to my substantive on how we say that the government is actually passing a value judgment which entrenches the stereotype of females in society. You said that, Speaker Sir, every decision of the state and every verdict by the legislature actually signals a direction and a value judgment that the government takes on this particular issue, right? For example, when a government actually builds out very harsh penalties on rape, this shows that the government thinks that rape is indeed so heinous, and therefore we should punish these people for the kind of crimes that they have done. Therefore, when the government actually naturally favors females over father when it comes to the grey areas of custody battles, we believe that what the government is essentially doing is that they are passing a value judgment saying that females are the one who should be saying that females are the one who should undertake this responsibility just because society thinks so in the very first place. We do not exactly think this is true, and we do not exactly think that this is right in the very first place, because what they are doing is that they are retarding the whole feminist movement, the movement on female rights, to actually take and further entrenches this whole idea that females should be the ones staying at home. Females should be the one who actually do all these things for the children, and females inherently just have that sort of maternal instincts that you're talking about in the very first place. We say that all these things are relative. Who are you to think that the father is not putting in as much effort in the whole process in the very first place? And what they're doing is that you're just going against whatever that you have tried to build up in the very first place for female rights in America in itself. So now I'll move on to my second substantive on how we say this is unjust. How we say this, it is unjust to discriminate fathers based on such biological differences and assumptions on the father's duty in raising up a child. So before that, let's say what is a just verdict. We say that a just verdict is something that is merit based on your ability, that is objective, and we have a yardstick towards. And we say we have a yardstick because we're looking at the support structure. We are not taking into that sort of generalization of society which they are talking about. Therefore, we believe that it is just if you were to base it on objectivity. Yes.
Bite the bullet, alright, and answer in gray areas where both parties are equal and where all these considerations have already been factored in. What then is your yardstick to replace our perpetual society?
We say that support structures of families are not taken into account, and that's what we're going to add into our paradigm, and we're also going to ask children of their testimony of how close they are to their parents in the very first place. This is what we're going to do, which is different from their policy. So we say a just verdict is something that takes into account merit-based differences. However, under this, in their paradigm of favoring mothers over the dads, we say that you're passing a verdict that you think that fathers are inherently less capable, fathers are inherently putting lesser amount of effort and love into a relationship with their child. What we're talking about, because what we're talking about is about parenthood. We say that a child means so much to parents in the very first place, and fathers who even want to take up the attempt to go into such battles when they know that they are naturally disadvantaged are the ones that actually have this sort of affection for the kids in itself. We believe that we believe that it is very ridiculous to think that mothers necessarily contribute more to their kids, and with that we believe that our case rule this debate, and with that we're quite true.
Madam Speaker, this debate is not about whether which parent loves the child more in that sense, right? This debate is what is the fairest way to ensure that the child is in the best hands of which parent in a situation when certain things are unclear. And we think a lot of cases in a court of law, when a child is supposed to be given custody, is extremely unclear. And that is where this debate lies. We're not going to contest on any grounds where it's very clear, such for example, when the mother is a drug addict and the father is capable of taking care of the child. We are also not going to contest on their own grounds that when the support structure is present in the father's side and not in the mother's side, therefore it falls onto the father's side. What we're contesting on is when everything else is equal, Madam Speaker. How then do we weigh on which side should we give the child to? I think this is extremely important where side opposition stands firm on the ground that we will favour mothers because of various reasons that Andrew spoke about, not responded by Reda. But what was their side of attack, right? Now this is where Amanda's speech, which bulk of her speech spent on characterization and very little substantive, spoke about. She said, and this was a certain assertion that they made, that look, how dare you say that fathers aren't the same as mothers in any sense? How dare then do you also say that fathers don't love and have an emotional attachment to the children as the mothers do, right? We are not contesting about that. We think fathers can love as equally much to the children as mothers. But the question is, what then should you do for the child? What's in the best interest of the What's the best interest for the child when you want to decide who to give it to? We have three responses to that, to side government, right? Firstly, we need to defend this idea about how courts look at decision making. Secondly, we need to defend our idea why social values are extremely important, especially when things are very dubious and grey in nature. Lastly, and in my substantive itself, I'm going to talk to you why at the end of the day we need to take the mother's emotional attachment, and this is where the lines of my substantive is, right? Why we need to take the bonds and the emotional attachment of the mothers into consideration, especially when something is very intrinsic and something that's not tangible in this situation. My second substantive then, sit down. My second substantive then is why at the end of the day, their policy actually harms women's progression, not helps them, and how this balances the idea of financial power, which is also taken into consideration, which often sides on the side of men itself, right, Madam Speaker? But let's go down to the first response that we need to defend. Look, Madam Speaker, we told you that courts take a holistic approach. They look into financial backing rankings. They look into support structure. They look into how often the parents can be there for their children itself. So it's not just a one blindsided thing. What they're assuming in this debate, and something like all the strawman arguments, is say, oh look, you know what? The courts now always give the child to the mothers. No, they don't. The courts do take things into consideration. Or when things are equal, then that is where this debate lies. So on this whole idea or assumption that they're trying to push for, making you believe that all the time courts favor women, it's not true. Courts do favor and take into consideration of equal propensity on who's best for the child itself. So we don't think in most cases in the United States always the child goes to the mother. We think that's a fallacy and assertion coming from side government in the first place. But more than that, and this is where the second response comes in. So when you have a lot of grey areas, what then do you do about it? This is why Andrea spoke in great detail of why it's important to take social norms into consideration. Because we think all laws reflect social norms. For example, when Barack Obama stood up recently and spoke about the laws in America, the Constitutional Amendment, even the Constitutional Amendment was a very strong reflection of the Bible itself. A lot of laws in America itself reflects the kind of social arrangement that has existed for hundreds of years. We don't think just because women now go out to work more often, Madam Speaker, that changes the fundamental aspect of society. Sure, we look at it in a different dimension. Sure, now mothers, instead of feeding their children breakfast in an apron, now feeds their children breakfast in a suit before going to work. It doesn't change the kind of fundamental role that's still being played in society itself. We don't think that's discrimination against women, Madam Speaker. We think that's perfectly normal, given the kind of emotional attachment that they have towards children. And this is where my first substantive comes in this debate. We tell you why mothers at the end of the day have that kind of bond towards children that cannot be calculated in a logical sense. Firstly, we tell you, it's not something that we can say, okay, you know what, mothers have this kind of value towards children. We think it's extremely important, something they discounted in her speech when she said, just because the mother carries the baby doesn't mean anything. We think it means a lot to the mother, Madam Speaker. We think when the mother bears the child for 9 months, when the mother goes onto the internet to find out the best way to protect the child, the best way, go online to find other pregnant mothers, to find out how then should we protect this child, how then should we raise this child, what's the best way to carry and deliver this child. We think the mother takes a lot of interest. And when you look at human emotions, Madam Speaker, when you put a lot more effort carrying a child, trying to protect a life itself, we think the mother becomes a lot more emotionally attached to the child. We think it's something that can be given from the get-go, Madam Speaker. It's extremely hard for them to come and say, and the father has the same kind of. We think on the father's own ability. He does care a lot for the child too. But when you look at it relativity, right, we think that the mother's care for the and concern for the child outweighs a lot more as compared to the father due to the physical, psychological and physiological attachment that she has towards the child. We think that's extremely important. That must be taken into consideration. So we think the court also applies this to many other instances, for example, when the court takes emotional aspect into judgment. For example, when you give parole, if a prisoner wants to get out of jail earlier and the prisoner doesn't look sympathetic about it, the court is never going to let the prisoner out on parole. But if the prisoner shows true remorse, according to the court's own words, then the courts will take emotional aspect into the evaluation of judgment itself. We don't think it's something exclusive only for parents, and we think the emotional aspect too must be taken into certain courts of law's judgment. More than that, and this is where they shot themselves in the foot, and they said, oh, you know what, the court always sides on women in terms of rape. And the court has to side women on rape sometimes, because women are the ones that are on the receiving end. We think the women are the one that must be protected to a greater extent. So that's why the woman's words sometimes weigh more than the man. That is how the court operates. We don't have perfect knowledge, Madam Speaker. If we do, we never need courts of law or judges to decide on certain issues, Madam Speaker. But unfortunately, that's the reality of it. We have to accept that. That is why sometimes we err on the side of caution, err on the side of social value. That was what Andrew was speaking about. They never responded. If I got the second subject,
how can you just always assume that the fathers don't play a role? If mothers are searching for pregnant mothers and whatnot, fathers are also helping search for how to take care of their wives during that period.
We agree on that,
how can you assume that fathers
don't disagree on what they're saying, but we say at the end of the day, when you look at it relatively, when you have to make a judgment call on traditional and biological reasons, we think that the mother still has certain weight towards the child more than the father itself. That's why, but the point of this argument was to take the emotional aspect of people into consideration and not leave that out as what they're proposing. But second response, right, how this weighs out the kind of discrimination that women suffer. Because under their paradigm, when you remove that kind of favoring towards mother, what you do is look at things which is the next best reason, financial reason. And even in America, where 50% of the claim of women are employed, 50% of these women are unemployed with the same kind of paycheck as the men, Madam Speaker. So what happens then is at the end of the day, when the court look at who's best, they look at the financial reasons of the father. We think this is not an assertion. We think men do still have a much higher paycheck than women women in America itself. And when you look at that kind of consideration, it takes a huge step back from the women itself, because now the courts tend to favor more to the man, because the man has more financial power, which is a major consideration into ensuring what's best for the child's own future, right, Madam Speaker? So what they're doing is basically discriminating. Why the woman? Why we had this emotional protection was to weigh out and balance out the kind of reasons. That's why you see in families in court custodies, where even the woman earns much lesser than the man, the court still gives the woman the right to custody to the child. We think this is perfectly normal given other weighing considerations such as emotional attachment, such as social values, to kind of outweigh and balance out the kinds of differences that men have in terms of financial advantage. We think this is extremely important and it's over time already. Therefore, we're very proud to oppose.